Well, while that starts, welcome everybody to the December 2022 Raleigh Astronomy Club meeting. Any new timers here? Anybody who's not joined us? Welcome, very glad to have you here. Hope this is a good presentation. Tonight, we're going to be going through imaging showcase for 2022. Several of the imagers in the club are going to present some images that we've taken throughout the year, talk a little bit about them, and see what we got. So as we go through the presentation, we're going to ask you hold questions at least until between presenters for the imaging showcase.
Yeah, I think that would be best. Yeah,
I think that would be best. Okay.
Yeah.
And then if you have a question, please wait till we hand you this microphone so that you can ask and everybody online can hear it. And forward, please. And I just went over this and upcoming events. I think you have to click through each. So we have our observing session, RAC on December 23rd. On January 7th, we have the first Saturday under the stars with the Triangle Land Conservancy at Three Bear Acres. January 11th, stargazing at the Willard. 13th, indoor meeting here. On the 14th, stargazing at White Deer Park in Garner. On the 27th, we are setting up for astronomy days here in the museum. And then the 28th and 29th, we have astronomy days, which is a really cool event to come check out a lot of presentations from the club and others. On the 10th of March, we have the indoor meeting at the Moorhead Planetarium Science Center. Registration for RAC members is through the RAC calendar like any other meeting. And then April 21st and 22nd, the North Carolina statewide star party. Now there's a couple more RAC hobs in those months that we'll have in the calendar as well as share as we have our future indoor meetings. After the event today, if you want, you could join us at the Sammy's Tap and Grill for a drink, just to talk, have a dessert, have a meal. And the address is up here and it will be presented at the very end of the meeting as well, if you're interested in joining. And now I will hand it over to Chris Cole for the 2022 imaging showcase. So Chris has been with the club since 2007 and started out as a visual observer. Cell phones were not around at the time, so his only option was to take crude images of the night sky with a point and shoot camera up to the telescope eyepiece. He was ecstatic with his results and went on to become one of the club's longest dedicated astro imagers. For the past several years, he's headed up the Raleigh Astronomy Club's imaging group and was also a club co-chair for 4 years. So on to you, Chris.
All right, thank you so much, Naveen. Okay, so we are sharing, very good. Okay, yes, I've been at it for a while, since 2007, yeah, and as Naveen just brought up, what was it? When I got my first telescope, it was with my my current tax return. I was just like, I got a job now. I've always wanted a decent telescope, so I went to a certain company on P Street. A lot of people probably know what I'm referring to, and I bought my first telescope with my tax return from there. And I pointed it to different places in the sky. I was trying to learn the star maps. I saw a little star next to the constellation Leo and looked on a star map. It wasn't there. I turned my telescope to it to look at it, looked through the eyepiece, and sure enough, oh my God, there was Saturn. And it was 2007, and I was like, oh wow, this is great. And I didn't come to think about it as far as like learning the particular stats of the planets or anything in astronomy in general. But Saturn, it takes it about 30 years to go around the sun. And well, in 2007, I turned 30. So there's where it was when I was born. How about that? Such a nice coincidence. But Yeah, and so like Naveen said, I was like, okay, well, let me go grab my camera and yeah, we'll just hold it up to the eyepiece. We'll do the best we can. And I did that, got frustrated. I was like, okay, let's build an adapter out of duct tape. Did that. Okay, what else can we do? I was like, oh, I can buy this. Oh yeah, oh, I can buy that. Oh, let's get an equatorial mount and start doing that. And sure enough, as you can tell, from me rambling here, the cost started, mounting quite a bit. So yeah, you can get carried away in amateur astronomy, and as far as dollars go, you can get very carried away in imaging. So, anyways, so one thing I wanted to mention before I get started with all of our presenters here was that one of our longtime members here, Michael Fulbright, something I didn't really pay attention to. He sent out an email some time back, not too long ago, and this is the 15th year that the imaging group was formed. And so I just wanted to read off what he had said, that the whole point of the imaging group is what the imaging group is for. So the bullet points he has here are it's to promote imaging through interactive participation, help build our collective imaging knowledge database, introduce and help newcomers enjoy the thrill of astroimaging, and finally, enjoy each other's company, both socially and technically. So, well, technologically, just because a virus got in the way, yeah, yeah. So technology has come a long way for us to be able to share things, and also as far as taking images of the night sky. Being in it for 15 years, I can't believe how much the tech has improved as far as what cameras are capable of doing right now. So anyway, on to the showcase. Okay, let's see. Is this working? Very good. So we have, yes, I counted that correctly. We have 9 presenters tonight, and all the presenters you're about to see, they have various skill level of imaging. Either they're just starting fresh from looking through the eyepiece and getting excited like I was, or they're trying their best at learning the ropes of imaging, of the various aspects of astroimaging that are out there, when it comes to choosing the right camera, choosing the right mount that your telescope or your camera sits on, or you get your good pictures. What do you do then? Well, post-processing. Okay, so the imaging group looks to share our experiences in all these aspects, right? So the biggest thing that we always want to see at as the end product, like you can see in the background here of this slide, you want to see that that really pretty picture of where all of our hard work went into. Okay, and so that's what we're going to see tonight from some of our, well, not some, all of them, hopefully, all of our presenters here, and they're going to show us what they got throughout the year 2022, and I just want to make everybody aware, or excuse me, our imagers that are presenting tonight aware that since I'm doing this from just one laptop, and you remember from when we were communicating this together, we pulled all the images into one slideshow here, and here it is right here in front of me. When you're done talking about an image that you've taken and you want to go on to the next image, just say, I don't know, say, Chris, next slide, please. There we go. That's good enough. Okay. So anyway, so yeah, we have Kenneth Grunwald, Chris Cole, yay, and Naveen Malik, Johnny Horn, Doug Lively, Jim Perchikandi. I think I got that right. That's always a hard one for me. Chris Whittam and Dave Filipowski. There we go. I need to slow down. Okay, Mark, and finally the longtime imager, Mark Lang. Okay, so Ken, are you there?
I am indeed.
Okay, I'm about to start. Here we go. Here's
Okay.
your first image. Take it away. Thrill us.
All right. Hello, everyone. This is Kenneth Grunwald, and that's my very first image that I wanted to show, just to show without a telescope. I was in Wrightsville Beach, and I was observing meteors throughout the night, decided to stay up until sunrise. So that is the sun with, I waited for the bird to fly into the frame, and I thought it was kind of neat that the Statue of Liberty shadow there up there above the clouds was staring me down. So I thought that was kind of cool. I'm ready for the next slide. And again, Wrightsville Beach. Yeah, one of my favorites. This is in the middle of the day. Again, just with my cell phone. And I saw the moon, bright as can be. Saw a plane headed that way with his contrails, and I waited for it to come into frame and took that photo. Again, just with the cell phone, no special effects. Next frame, please. A friend called me a couple of weeks ago and said, Ken, there's a ring around the moon. And it was pretty late at night. I thought, okay, they knew. So I go outside and I saw an awesome ring around the moon. And unfortunately, I didn't really capture the colors that I saw with my eyes, but I thought this was pretty neat. I just kind of manually put it up in the air and captured it. The ice crystals, of course, are very, very tiny. I think they're 20 microns in size to form that. And the refraction is 22 degrees. So that's why the ring is always 22 degrees around the moon. So not the greatest photo, but I was happy it came out so you can see it. Next slide, please. This was just recently. I was too cold to go out into a park to get a Geminid meteor. And I decided, oh, what the heck, I'll just go to my front door. And I went outside and all the neighbors, of course, have their floodlights on. Street light was on. The moon was just to the west of, actually just to the left of this picture. And it was very, very bright. I didn't think I would capture any meteors. I was out there for a while. And then I thought, it's too darn cold even on my front porch. So I was just about to go in and set it for another 30-second exposure. And I was lucky enough to get one. I thought that was pretty cool. Just when you're about to quit, I got one. Next slide, please. That was my first attempt earlier this year, I think it was April, for a total lunar eclipse. And those are real difficult with the cell phone and the telescope, basic telescope, because there's not no light emanating from the moon. So it was hard to find it within my view scope. So I just put it up to the eyepiece, just like Chris did in 2007 when he was first starting out. I'm probably even more of a beginner than he was back then. And took me a couple of tries, but I was able to get at least one that was recognizable as far as a total eclipse. And it was much redder than this, but I didn't want to manipulate the colors. Thanks. Next slide, please. And that was, I think, yeah, just again, it was in totality at this point. So not a lot of features, but again, total lunar eclipse. You can see a couple of stars there. And I'm ready. Next one, please. This one was just recently, I think it was last month for the total lunar eclipse. And I was experimenting there with different exposure at times, simply because it was so difficult to see. And you can see on the, it's about the 8 o'clock position. I think it wasn't totality at that point, it was about 99%. So those were my lunar eclipse attempts. Next slide, please. That one was, you can see my attempt at a moon photo with my cell phone. Again, I had to hold my breath against the eyepiece of the telescope so as not to get an out of focus, and finally caught it in frame. And of course, the terminating line there is what makes it easier to see the craters there. But I thought that came out fairly decent. And yeah, now I'm ready for the next one. And again, that's just, you can see the craters there. I was happy. On all of these moon shots, it's real difficult for my telescope. I don't have an automatic tracking system, so it's just kind of manually doing it real quick before it gets out of frame. And again, you can see some of the craters along the termination line. And I'm ready. Next slide, please. That one is a full moon, which is sometimes even more difficult because usually everything's washed out. But I was happy, well, kind of happy with the way that came out. You can see basically at the 7, 8 o'clock, and 11 o'clock positions on the outermost. You can see some of the craters, but it was basically just to get an idea of what the full moon looked like. And yes, I have used an adapter, a cell phone adapter on my telescope. Just got a question from someone. And for me, it just didn't work. It's like driving a sports car in automatic when you could be driving it in manual. I just always find that holding it up to the eyepiece, holding my breath, maybe I won't be able to do that much longer as I age, is the way that I get the most in focus images. But thanks for the question. Next image, please. This is Saturn. I was able to get with the 4 Galilean moons, I believe they're called, the largest moons of Saturn. I think Saturn has, last count, 80 total moons. These are the largest. And let's see, I think we've got Lo is the closest one. And then the one just to the upper right of it is Europa, which is a real good instrumental by Santana as well. And then I think you've got Ganymede and Callisto are the others. And I think the 2 largest moons there are equal size of planet Mercury. So I thought that was neat. Next, please. And that was an attempt to try to get the actual lines across Jupiter. And I thought, I'm going to try to get a little bit closer, even though obviously it's fuzzier. That's the cloud system, the demarcations there across. So obviously not real sharp, but at least I want to get that. No, I didn't get the red spot. And my next goal would be to get the rings of Saturn with my telescope and my cell phone. I have not captured that, although I've observed it, and it's amazing. Thank you. Next slide, please. This was at, believe it or not, Wrightsville Beach again. And I was able to capture a meteor. Unfortunately, I don't have any reference. I should try more for getting references at the bottom, like buildings or that sort of thing, trees, but this was up pretty high. And you can see that the normal track of a meteor is light in the middle and then the faint at either side. Unfortunately, I really didn't capture any fireballs, but I was happy with that one. Thank you. Next slide, please. This on one of our ventures out to Big Woods, one of the members said, "Why don't you try to get the Milky Way?" Thought, with my cell phone, okay, I'll try. The most it goes on my cell phone is a 30-second exposure, but you can see some of it. It's a little bit fuzzy, but I was amazed that it actually came out in an image. You can see with your bare eyes, but again, what you're going to be seeing following me are incredible experts in imaging, and where you'll be able to see real detail as far as deep space. But in any case, that was my attempt at the Milky Way with a cell phone camera. Thanks. Next slide.
Okay, very nice, Ken.
Oh, that's it. Okay. I'm going to keep going.
Okay, oops, sorry.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's my last one, I think. That one is just, I wanted to prove to everyone that a broken clock is right twice a day, because I was at the park, Lake Benson Park, and I just wanted to see some meteors, and I was not really getting a lot of meteors throughout the night. And I knew that ISS, the International Space Station, was overhead. So I thought I'd take a couple of exposures of that. And lo and behold, a meteor at that point appeared at the last moment, just close to the horizon. So I was happy I was able to get both ISS and a meteor at the same time in the same image. Thanks so much.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Does anybody else have any questions for Ken? I mean, this is pretty impressive work with just a cell phone. It's like I said, I was complaining back in the day. It would have been nice to have a smartphone or something with a simple camera that you can just pull out of your pocket. Do what?
Yeah, they've gotten better, which is why I'm delaying and buying myself a camera. But remember, it's Christmas, everyone. So anyone want to surprise me? Go right ahead.
So we had a question from the audience. What cell phone were you using?
I have a Samsung 21.
Okay. All right. Very good. Any other questions?
What size scope are you using? It's a 5-inch. See how much of a beginner I am? I don't know what you call it, 5-inch something. Aperture?
5-inch aperture,
Yeah.
refractor, or like,
Yeah.
lenses or mirrors. Is there a refractor?
Refractor, yeah.
Okay, very good. Okay, so refracting telescope. Okay, Ken, thanks so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so, oops. Close this right here. Hello. Why my screen is running into his? Okay, well, that's me, Chris Cole. And okay, so this wasn't a very productive year for me. So I guess this is probably the most ooh and ah moment I had the whole year. But I say year as in like this was taken in 2021, and so just because each of us is allotted with 10 minutes of worth of time, I'll go ahead and tell you a quick story because I always like doing that, and yeah, I can probably see some eyes rolling right now. But I don't know if anybody remembers, if you were here in North Carolina at the time, what was it? December 26th, day after Christmas. It was ungodly warm. It was like in the 80s, and it was crystal clear. And as far as I believe that night, it was going to be cloudy. However, because I like taking the images of the sun, I thought I'd take advantage of it and just do a quick time lapse. So it's not playing anymore here, or at least on my screen. So here, let me do this right here. All right, so those at home can look at this. So I'll post that. There's a link to this video right here. But basically, I went out and I took an image of the sun once every minute, and then I processed each of those recordings. I did 150 of them. So 150 minutes. So that's what, 2.5 hours? Yeah, there we go, 2.5 hours. And I've been doing this off and on ever since I've gotten a hydrogen alpha telescope, which is what allows you to see all this detail on the sun. And my whole goal is to be able to catch an X flare. And the biggest chance of catching an X flare was probably from that active region or sunspot group that you see, I don't know, maybe about the 2 o'clock position at center of the sun. And but nothing actually happened there. But close to where I have the Earth scaled there, to give you an idea of how big the objects can be in this image. There were 2 active regions right there, and they threw off a lot of flares. And if you look at the link, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about. So let's see. Okay. And this, of course, was the eclipse from last month, one that Ken showed you his take on it. So one of the things I was thinking about doing, I got this an inspiration from Joe Pettit, who's good about taking nice little nightscape images with perfect foreground objects. So I took I stole that idea from him and went out to NC State near the intersection of Poland and Hillsborough Street. And if you've been out there, you know that that's a roundabout there. And so what I did is I took a 200mm lens, and what I was trying to do is get an image of the lunar eclipse of November and the bell tower in the same frame. And so took me running back and forth along the sidewalk to, get the moon to be just like perfectly next to it or above it or whatever. But there was another photographer who had showed up, and right before totality had happened. He came and he looked at me. I was like, "Oh, so you're here too?" So it was great. So yeah, he and I were having a lot of fun going back and forth. He got up really close to the bell tower, did whatever work he was doing, and I got back and I did this. And if anybody knows me, and going back to the other slide, I like doing time lapses. I did a time lapse of the 2019 lunar eclipse, and it was an HDR time lapse. It's something I had always wanted to do for a lunar eclipse, and it worked out and it was great. So one thing I did that didn't cross my mind is mainly because I didn't know how well this would work as far as framing the moon and the bell tower in one. You look at the single image right here, and there's the moon, and as far as I can remember correctly, it was already into totality there. Well, you have a time reference there. You don't have to go by the metadata of a digital file that this printer is on. You have it right there on the clock. It's right there. So it's about, I don't know, what, 5:21 maybe or something like that. So I was kicking myself when I was processing these. I was like, you know what? Had I done a time lapse, that would have been spectacular. You would have seen the moon creep into Earth's shadow, become a lunar eclipse, and you would also had seen the bell tower hands moving. So anyway, that's all I have to show. So, so but anyway, okay. Anybody have any questions? Anybody on chat? No? Do what? Don't see anybody. Okay, good. Thank you. Okay, Naveen, you're up. Thrill us.
Is that on now? All right. So I went with kind of a calendar theme for these because I have a lot of pictures and it was hard to weed it down. Like, okay, once a month.
That scared me for a second there. I was like, oh my God, these are a lot. Okay. Okay.
That and with 9 presenters, we really don't have 10 minutes each. So I'm going to go through these reasonably quick. So January. So this is Bode's and Cigar's galaxies, M81, M82. I'm not going to remember all the number stuff as we go. I've taken pictures of this one multiple times. I think it's my go-to anytime I get new gear. I'm like, okay, I gotta try this one and Orion and Rosette Nebula and a couple of key ones. Pretty bright and fun to take pictures of. So I think I need to take it again with my current telescope. So that'll be around 4 or 5. I don't know. I have a problem with I like changing up my gear and trying out new stuff. So
there's nothing wrong with that.
yeah. So a lot of these images I changed. This is with is it a 6-inch refractor? I can't even remember now. Well, I haven't used it for like 8 months. So
is it a Eurus Spirit?
it's it's a
5-inch. Yeah.
It's a 5-inch. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I remember. Yeah. I try to remember those things. Sorry.
Next. February is the Rosette Nebula. This one was interesting in that I took color data, I believe, and then used hydrogen alpha for the luminance. So any of the details is coming up from the hydrogen alpha, but all the colors from what you could see if your eye could see really, 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 really faint objects. This one's really pretty. I like all the I have an affinity for dusty stuff. So I love all the dusty stuff in the bottom right. And if you take a wider field shot, if you've got a shorter focal length camera and telescope pointed at this object, there's cool clouds of dust that come off to the side. It's really, really neat. Next. March, this is the Beehive cluster. When I started out, I was using a Canon DSLR, borrowed my wife's, with like a kit zoom lens, and I took the pictures of this object very, very early on, and decided with this scope I wanted to try again with something that was had good color correction and I knew how to focus and all that kind of thing. So not hard, no dust. relative, not hard relative to the nebulas, at least, is what I mean. I like how it turned out. I think I probably would go for a little more blue if I reprocess, but still pretty. Next. April, I switched to a lens, a camera lens, with one of my old cameras. So this is a 135 millimeter Rokinon lens. On the bottom is the Lagoon Nebula, and the top is Trifid. This one was fun in that I hadn't tried this kind of setup before, and it was just a blast to go try taking pictures of stuff with a wider field than what I had done with other lenses or telescopes. Next. The same camera setup. So in May, some data of the Ro-Ufuyoki cloud complex. Hope I pronounced that correctly. This one's got a little bit of everything. There's dark nebula, there's reflection nebula, so the blue on the left and the yellow on the right. It's got emission nebula in the top, the red area, which I didn't pull out very well. There's a globular cluster on the right-hand side, which off the top of my head, I can't remember what it is.
That's M4.
M4.
Yeah.
One of the things I'd like to do with this region is go wider. If you see other people's pictures of it, there's like a huge tail of dust that comes down. Oh, so in this picture, it would come down towards Chris. I think that would be really fun to take. Hopefully I can figure out how to do that next year. Next, June. I can't remember who in the club presented an image of this.
Yeah, I can't remember. Yeah. It knocked my
This is
socks off when I saw that. Yeah.
Able 39.
Yes, that's correct. It's in Hercules.
It's a really neat little planetary nebula. I wish I'd looked up the stats on this, but it's almost, perfectly spherical. There's some, if you zoom in, you can see like little imperfections in the dust. Like it's, it's not like a clean
That's gas.
sphere. Gas, sorry.
All right, I'll shut up. Sorry.
This one, I don't know. I need a telescope with more focal length. I'd like to get in there closer, but this is pretty. I really enjoyed this one. Next.
Okay.
So July. This is K2 Pan-STARRS comet on the left, and I want to say M14, maybe M10.
Yeah,
This one
you
I
got
gotta
me.
look up real quick. I don't want to get this one wrong. I totally can't remember all things. Oh, M10. Yeah. So this I shot again with that camera lens. It was from my backyard. I just had a quick, short window, where there weren't any clouds miraculously because this summer was really bad. So I used the camera lens to take a picture, because with the color camera, I don't have to change filters. So it's just one shot and you get it. Not that this was one exposure. I don't remember how much this was, but keep waiting for a new bright comet to hit the top of the list I watch, but this I think is still at the top of the list. Or there may be another one that I already imaged, but anyway.
Well, we'll let Mark Lang tell us. So yeah, he's the comet guru. Anytime there's a good comet in the sky, he's out to image it.
Absolutely. Next, please. All right, August, total wash. Absolutely nothing. I was not traveling. I was not away. I didn't skip a night. There was nothing because it's clouds. So next. I switched to a refractor, which I'd been kind of scared of, hearing, collimation is a problem. It's challenging when you're starting out, and it wasn't that bad. Plus, if you have any problems, the club is a great resource for getting help. But started off with something simple, double cluster, simple in that, I could go with really short exposures because there's no dust or gas. And this is still my favorite picture, I think, since I took it in September.
Using the Newtonian.
Yeah,
Yeah, all those, diffraction spikes are really beautiful.
yeah, it's my new favorite scope. Of course, it's always.
And you've had
most
it, before you had a refractor too, didn't you?
Yeah, before the Esprit. I just didn't have all the gear to use it, but it's fun. Next. In October, so this is a portion of the Veil Nebula, so Western Veil. On the bottom left of this is Pickering's Triangle. Top right is Witch's Broom, and I can't remember the name of that star, the bright star that's in the top right.
I want to say it's 32, something 32.
Yeah,
Cygni 32.
yeah,
Maybe.
something like
It's in a constellation, Cygnus. Okay.
but this again was with that Newtonian reflector. See the spikes on it, and then November.
Oops, sorry.
Oh, yes. So our imaging meeting in November, I think, Chris, you were talking about going after Stevens Quintet. And
Yeah, Stevens Quintet.
I had my scope in the backyard and I was connected to it remotely because I have a PC running on it. I was like, well, that sounds fun. Let me see where, if I can get that. And I ended up taking, a couple hours of data in this region. So this is the Stevens Quintet in the top right. There's several, like 4 or 5 galaxies you can see there. And then in the middle is the Deerlick group, which has an interesting history on it, which I don't have time to share. Being told to write. Next. Oh yeah, that's without the stars. So there's actually quite a few galaxies in that area. Next. And then December is M33, or the I'm still getting data on this, but it's a beautiful, beautiful object to image. And that's it.
Okay, so let's see who's up next. Something I should have said that beforehand. Each imager, I'd like you to take, well, in this case, less than 10 minutes to present your images. So sorry, Naveen. I should have said something. Yeah, everybody. Okay. Thanks very much, Naveen. Let's see. Okay, Johnny Horn, you're up. Thrill us.
Oh, it's pretty cool that Naveen didn't remember that he had a 5-inch Esprit refractor. That's a man after my own heart there. Yeah. Moderation. That's what we're after in this hobby, right? This is June. This is kind of a bucket list shot of wanted to do for some time. And in fact, what got me thinking about it was some of the members went to, where did y'all go to? Asheboro or somewhere this past summer to try to get an ISS transit of the sun. Anyhow, I started monitoring the ISS transit site around that time. And on June 23rd, there was going to be one. And it was going to go over my backyard where my observatory is, which is perfect for an old retired guy like me, So this would be my chance. And plus, not only was it over my backyard, the ISS was about as big as it would ever be. It was 63 arc seconds across. And the sun was about as high as it was going to get, so that means that, the ISS is close and 2 days from the solstice, so the sun it's a 1 p.m. transit. So, but a few days before the transit, the path started shifting south, so I'm thinking, well, this will be a little road trip 10 miles down the road. Well, by the time the transit happened that morning, it was about 50 miles south. So I went to Clarkton. I called a science teacher down in Bladen County that I'd done some public viewings for, and she put me in touch with a school principal at a school in Clarkton. And she said, yeah, come on out, set up. So I set up on the school grounds with a 5-inch refractor and my Nikon D850 shooting 4K video at 30 frames a second. And if you haven't, this hasn't occurred to you yet, this is the first time I've done one of these. If it hasn't occurred to y'all yet, you can't see it coming in the daytime. Okay, if it's a lunar transit, you can, you see the ISS come, it goes in front of the moon. You can't see it coming. So you got to shoot a video clip unless you're really quick at the exact second, because it's on the sun for half a second. So I started a video clip about 1.5 minutes on either side of the transit time. And I got 15 frames with 30 frames per second video, and pull those out in Photoshop and stack this. So that's my ISS transit. So next, this is one from my 8-inch RASA camera, and I got a new narrowband filter for it that's designed to fit the RASA, the F2 RASA. And this is the Flaming Star Nebula and the Tadpole Nebula over here on the left from my backyard. Next. And this is an August picture that I got when I got a new camera. I got an ASI 2600 color camera, and this was the first object I went out and shot on an August evening. I used a 14-inch Meade Schmidt-Cassegrain telescope configured to f6.7. Next. Yep. This is Mars. This is November the 5th through the 14-inch Meade at f20. And pretty good seeing that night. It was much better than around the opposition time. This is November the 5th. So Mars had some pretty good size. Polar cap showing a lot of, ridging and detail on one side of the planet. When you're looking at the other side of the planet, there's not that much of the polar cap visible. So it's kind of over to one side. Next. This is a picture of the stars of the Pleiades, a few of them, and the nebulosity is done with an 8-inch RC reflector, and that new camera that I got in August. This was done about a month ago. It's 29 5-minute exposures stacked together. Okay, and this is the eclipse in November. Again, through the 14-inch, configured to about f6, so I could get the whole moon. And it's a Nikon D850 picture. Okay, and this is just the other day, the Mars full moon, not occultation, not for me in near Fayetteville, but had some holes in the clouds, and it was socked in early in the evening. And I'm watching the satellite picture, and there's a hole in the clouds over Asheville. And it's starting to creep this way, So I figure it'll get here about the time Mars is closest to the limb of the moon, and it did. And so I was able to get this shot, and it's also through the 14-inch at f10, and then it clouded up again.
Of course, ain't that always the way?
Yeah.
All right, Doug, you're up. Okay, so Doug, he's going to introduce us to a little niche in part of imaging.
Thanks, Chris, for letting me follow Johnny Horn. Excellent shots, Johnny. Really super.
You can fly through this. Come on.
Humbled. All right, so let's go. Okay, so Debbie and I spent next slide. Debbie and I spent about 2.5 months at Glacier National Park, as many of you know, and I was an astronomy interpretive ranger there. Go to the next slide, please. All right, that's my wife and I. We also had our 50th wedding anniversary over that time. So that's me, the austere ranger there. So that's that was actually my office. What you see in the back there, it's that back view. So that was super. I'll just go ahead and announce it now. I'll be going back next year. I've already been invited back by Glacier, so I'll be there. So. All right, this is M10, a little globular cluster. Basically, it's a 15-second exposure, one frame. So I know you're having a little contest over the next for the next imagers group. So yeah, this is just a one frame exposure. I took that. I was at Logan Pass. I was about 6,600 feet above sea level. So it really didn't take very long to take that one. All right, let's go next. This is M10. I'm sorry, M13, And so this is the Great Cluster. For me, okay, so I should say that actually for the majority of my time at RAC, I've been a visual astronomer. And I only decided that, hey, I need to get into astrophotography really about, it's only been, I think, 2017. So it's only been about 5 years that I've been doing this. And it was all sporadic because I also had to work. And in between times I was working, it was cloudy. So on the days I was off. So it's taken me a long time to get to this point. Now, this for me was a first. Now, there's still more improvement for these, but this is my first time I've ever been able to take a picture of M13 without completely blowing the core out. So I was happy with it, but I need to get a little tighter focus on that. So that's something I'll be working on. Again, this exposure was only 5.2 seconds. This was taken at West Glacier, about altitude of about 2,400 feet above sea level. Bortle 2 skies. All right, next, please. So at the end of the day, folks, it's the sky. All right. No light pollution. You get great shots. So, and it was really dry. I told some of the other folks about this. I was provided with the astronomy equipment. This was through a C11. There was no, they don't own a dew zapper for any of their equipment there because the skies are so dry. You don't have to worry about doing. It's just, the entire time I was there was no issues with dew whatsoever. All right, so this is M57, and so with this one, I kind of blew it up over there on the right side over there. This was the first time I've been able to take a picture of M57 and actually be able to see the central planetary. So again, I'm probably more of an intermediary astrophotographer. The rest of these guys will blow you away with their images, but for me, this was another first, being able to try and get that. And I also learned a lot about signal processing over the time. So these images do get a little better as we go on. All right, let's go to the next one, please. This was of course, the Dumbbell Nebula M27, 15-second exposure. So sorry, guys. I really am sorry. I apologize for the shorter exposure times. I know it's killing you.
That's incredible.
Okay, I promise the next one will be maybe a little longer. All right, next, please. All right, so this is my Bode's Galaxy. This is on the left here. Here's an image that I took with the C11. There are actually 3 galaxies in this picture, but we got Bode's M81, M82, the cigar, and we've got NGC 3307 at the very top, the little fuzzy one. So that was kind of a wider field view with the C11. On the right, excuse me for telling you, this was actually through the 20-inch plane wave and East Glacier. That's at about 4,400 square feet. I'm sorry, 4,400 feet above sea level. And that was 61 frames stacked. And exposure time was a little longer, 10 seconds.
Just a little.
Just a little. So,
yeah, okay.
All right, next, please. I'll go back to that. Now I didn't get the really nice plumage that you got, Naveen, coming out of the pulsar coming out of there, but I did like the fact that I actually kind of got in here and got the really individual sections of the galaxy. I mean, this galaxy is undergoing a really rough time in its galactic life. It's being kind of pulled apart by the gravitational attraction of M81 off to its left. And you can really see a lot of the fine detail where that galaxy is undergoing a lot of turbulence in the structure. So I was really happy to get that structure out. All right, let's go next. All right, this is my Bode's Galaxy. This is the galaxy that's affecting the Cigar Galaxy M82. And so this was mine. This one is off of East Glacier. This is off the plane wave. So, but all right, let's go next. All right, so this was off the C11, 15-second exposure of the Eagle Nebula. Sorry, I apologize for those short times. So it's you can see if you kind of looked. This is the actual raw image, more or less raw image. These are just EAA. We're just stacking these, live stacking. It's of course it's only one frame.
Well, one thing that makes me giggle about this is that you say 1 frame stacked. I'm like,
how you stack?
That's like
frame.
That's like it's like dividing 1 by 0. It's not possible.
No, it's 1 by 1. So okay, there we go. And that would be to infinity and beyond. Don't go back.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So, and on the right, I kind of blew that same image up, and you can actually begin to see the pillars of creation there in the Eagle Nebula and everything. So I was really pleased with that one. Next, please. This is, of course, the Omega Nebula. Some people refer to this as the Swan. Now, for me personally, I always thought of it as the Omega because it's in this picture over here. You can actually see the Omega when it's perpendicular like that. But I thought it would be neat. I just kind of turn it on its side, and it kind of looks like a swan, kind of swimming in the galactic sea there, or sorry, in the nebular sea. 15-second exposure, 11 frames stacked, so a little more than the last one. Next, please. This is the Whirlpool Galaxy. This is at East Glacier. This is off the plane wave. So that was only a 10-second exposure, 34 frames stacked. 34 frame stacked. Next, please. This will be my last one. This is M101 Pinwheel Constellation. All right, I'm sorry, Pinwheel Galaxy. 10 seconds, 60 frames stacked. I liked this one because, and this was also, this is the one that Hubble used. He's actually studied the Cepheid variable stars in M101 to formulate his theory of galactic, of the expansion of space. And so the Cepheid variable stars were the that were in this were the ones that he studied to develop that formula for the expansion of space. So, or at least one of the galaxies that he was using. So, all right, I think that's it.
All right, thanks,
All right,
Doug. Let's see who's up. Jim, you're up. Yeah, thrill us.
All right, so I'm Jim Perchicante. I joined the imaging group back in 2019, and I was a DSLR guy. I remember showing up at the first imaging meeting with a USB in my pocket of a picture of Orion that I took, a little fuzzy Orion. I was very proud. I thought I discovered plutonium. And then everybody started putting their images up, and I took my USB and I put it away. So over the last 3 years, I've been shooting with the DSLR and the same refractor that I've had the whole time. It's a 70 millimeter quad f5, so 350 millimeter focal length. And then this year I decided it's finally time. I've got no more things that I can shoot with my unmodified DSLR, and people keep telling me there's a lot of hydrogen in the universe and I should take a picture of it. So I got a 2600 mono camera and some filters, and I learned how to do something completely different and image with filters and go away from just imaging over 2 hours and imaging over several hours. All right, and show that first one. So that's Ghost of Cassiopeia. And so that's Gamma Cassiopeia. Up there's that big bright star. And that's the middle star of the W in the Cassiopeia constellation. And it's giving off a lot of ultraviolet radiation, and it's ionizing the hydrogen gas around it, stripping away the electrons. The electrons find their way back home. They glow red. Now my camera can pick up, which my DSLR could not. And to our human brains, we make things that look familiar out of it, and so we see a ghastly looking figure looking away, but it's just a cloud of dust. Next. And that's the Helix Nebula, also called the Eye of God. Eye of Sauron is the other name for it. And so this one's kind of low in the sky. It's in the more of a southern hemisphere object, but I've got a gap in the trees where I can just kind of get it. And so back at the week of Thanksgiving, I was hoping to get one night of imaging, and every night the skies kept clearing over Virginia. And so I ended up with 5 nights of imaging. So over the course of 5 nights, I was able to get enough data where I just get like a little bit hour on this one each night. And I think I got 5 hours total. And so I was able to stack it all together, and you can kind of see the little star in the center. It's a sun-like star that's reached the end of its life. And over the last 10,000 years, it's been blowing off dust. And so that's what we've got now.
One thing I'd like to everybody at home to know about, well, here in front of me too, is that, okay, everybody knows, most of us know what a planetary nebula is. That's what this is. And one thing I like about this as far as scale goes, because we had a question about measuring the scale of the objects that we take images of. As far as apparent size, this object right here, it is low in the sky, like Jim said, but if it were this bright, it'd be the size of the full moon. So yeah, that's a great object. Nice going.
Thanks. The Pleiades. So the other thing was imaging over the course of the week. I would set up the camera, set up the computer, like tell it to image the Helix Nebula, and then when that sets, go after Pleiades, and then when Orion pops up, go after the Horsehead Nebula, and then the other night go after Thor's helmet. And so I remember when I was younger seeing a picture of Pleiades for the first time where there was nebulosity around. I remember my dad had pointed out the Pleiades to me many times, and realizing there was nebulosity around it, I thought that was really kind of cool. And then with the DSLR, I could take pictures and show a little bit of the blue wispy parts around it. And then what I learned about it is that it's a open cluster that formed somewhere else and has drifted into this cloud. And so we see this reflection nebula. And I've always wanted to see the cloud. And so now, in this golden age of astronomy where we have cameras and scopes that can do this, I was able to take some long luminance exposures and see the rest of the cloud that it's drifting through to kind of get an idea of the structure. There's the Horsehead one that I took. And so this was also over several nights around Thanksgiving week. And I just kind of set up to start to shoot Horsehead. Somehow in all the years, I had never used the scope in the DSLR to take Horsehead. It's one of my favorite objects growing up, and I just never had done it. And so this is my first time doing it, and I was doing it with the new camera. And I knew with the first time I got an image out of it, I had some good conditions, and I'm going to get something really nice. So this is now my favorite image. Got the zoomed in view. Yeah, so you can kind of see in there on all the detail that got. I like this little IC 432 orange guy on that lower left. I guess that's looks kind of like a crocodile eye to me.
There you go. Our Warshite test.
Very much enjoying the new camera.
Okay. Any questions? No? Okay, cool. Move along. Let's see. Who's that? Oh, Chris Whittam. Chris Whittam, are you there? Oh, geez, I didn't even recognize you. Godly. I'm wearing my neck. I'm wearing my glasses for the first time. So sorry. Fearless.
Okay. What? Okay, so this year kind of, I've been trying to get into imaging back and forth more than once, and then finally everything I think is starting to click. So this is a 8-inch reflector with a coma corrector reducer, and finally got the collimation correct, the focusing correct. And so this is my version of the double cluster. About an hour's worth of data.
Okay.
Next. And same setup, and the Pleiades, what I got for about an hour's worth of data as well. And and one thing to say about this is, once I had all this put together, first time I tried it, I couldn't get to focus. So I actually had to move the mirror forward about 10-12 millimeters. So I took all the collimation screws out, put something in, lifted it up, and then had to recall. It was crazy, but it works well now.
I'd say so.
And then finally, this is my version of the November eclipse. I've got other pictures. I just haven't had a chance to deal with the rest of them. But this is an afocal through a 5-inch refractor.
What camera did you use for the Pleiades?
Both the Pleiades and the double cluster, a Nikon D7200.
Oh, okay, all right. And that was like what, a cell phone? Is that what
Yeah.
you said? Okay.
Yeah, just a Samsung S20.
Okay, all right, very good. All right, thanks, Chris.
That's it. Make up some
All right. Let's see. All right, Mark, you there?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. All right, here we go. You ready?
Yeah.
Thrill us.
Okay, this is a little near Earth asteroid that I took. It's called 1994 PC1. I took this picture in January the 18th, and this little guy got pretty close to Earth, a little bit less than 2 million miles. And it really isn't very big. It was like 460 feet across, but it got really close to Earth and was moving really fast across the sky. So it was moving so fast that it would cover the span of 2 full moons inside of an hour. So it was hard to catch up with and get it framed up properly and take the picture. But what you're seeing here is 27 minutes of real time pressed into 7 seconds here. So, each picture that I made into this animation was only 10 seconds long, and that little asteroid streaked during each one of those 10 seconds. And so it doesn't really look like a round dot like the stars do. But all the pictures I'm going to show tonight, as this one, were taken in my front yard with my 4-inch telescope on an equatorial mount in Cary. So we can go to the next one. And this is a picture of the eclipse in May, the May 15th eclipse. And what I'm trying to show here in this animation, this is a six frame animation with each frame 1 minute apart from the last one. And there's a nice little double star on the lower left-hand side there. And if you look closely at it, you can see that there's a bright star on the left and a dimmer star to its immediate right. And so as the moon creeps up, in this case, it's a fully eclipsed moon, it creeps up and it'll cover the secondary star, which was, it was magnitude 8.9, and the primary star was magnitude 6.3, and they were separated by 11 arc seconds. So back in the olden days, before we had all this nice modern equipment, for stars that were covered by the moon, astronomers were able to split double stars by watching the moon move in front of or occult a star. Okay.
Way of measuring the night sky. Very good. Okay, thanks so much, Mark.
Was there another one?
Oh, was there? Oh, yeah, there was. Oops, sorry,
Okay.
cut you off.
There you go. And this is my final picture. I took this one this summer on September, well, I guess it's fall almost, on the 16th of September. And I like to get two different kinds of things in one picture. In this case, in the kind of the upper right, we get globular cluster NGC 6712. And in the lower left, we get planetary nebula IC 1295, also called the green planetary. And what I think is cool about this picture is that the location of these two objects is in the constellation of Scutum, which is in the rich summer Milky Way. And so you can get, two different kinds of objects in one field of view. So if you're a visual astronomer, these things are separated by just about the width of a full moon. So if you had a nice dark sky and knew where to look, you could get both of these objects probably into one eyepiece field of view. So this is 21 minutes of exposure time. Not too much.
That's beautiful.
All right, that's all for me.
Okay. All right, and finally we have Dave Filipowski. Thrill us, Dave.
It's very good. I'm an older astronomer, but a newer imager. I've always been a visual. It's just the way I've been doing it. So until more recently, I started getting into the camera aspect. And as a friend of mine says, it's all about the photon. So it's just a matter of how long you can take these images. And this is just one of the earlier ones with I just used a wide field camera lens on a dedicated astronomy camera just to start getting something. And that's the Andrometer sitting there down on the left-hand side. And then you go to the next. This is a more recent one, and I'm still working with focus and a number of different things, but this is with a William Optics, the Zenithstar 66 millimeter, and then just using the dedicated astronomy camera. But I literally just got it about 3 weeks ago. So I'm just brand new at trying to figure these things out and get these things to come up on the screen. You can go to the next one. This is one I took of Mars. And I did that with my old reflector scope, and did it with just taking a video. I think it was about 25 frames per second, and then stacked together a bunch of them and blew it up just so it'd be a little bit larger for the purposes of this presentation. But you can still see some of the nice features in it, even though it's out of focus, but getting there. Again, one of the newbies with the imaging. Next one. This is obviously the moon. And this is with the reflector scope and using frames. I took about probably 1,000 frames or so, and was able to stack together a bunch and wound up with this. And just the thing that's just remarkable is you really do see a whole heck of a lot more as you're just gathering more and more of those photons in. So it's been an exciting adventure. Go ahead, next. This one is the Ring Nebula, and I was also thrilled to get the little center feature in there as well. And these, this one was with, again, the Newtonian reflector, just using an old school EQ2M media RA drive, so it right ascension drive that allows you to follow it a little bit. So I was able to do some tracking on it. Next one. And similar setup with this one, this as I did with Mars, just going ahead with the Saturn here, where I took probably again about 24, 25 frames per second, took about 2,500 frames or so, and then probably used about 50% of them to come down to this image. And then I think I've got another one or two. Next, please.
Hold on. Sorry.
Yeah, and I've
Oops.
yeah, that was one of mine.
Yeah. Anyway. Okay. Yeah. Well, that's all I have. So.
Oh, that's all right. That's
yeah.
all right.
So.
But it's the cool thing is just, you know, going from the visual observation to, because I debates with a friend for years about, you know, the whole imaging and those kind of things. But I joined the imaging group just roughly around a year ago, and now got my camera just a little bit ago, and then the scope, and it's just remarkable how much more you get when you begin doing some of the imaging. But I still just love going out and just staring up at the sky. So I still do a bit of both. So.
Okay, thanks, Dave. So yeah, there's our 9 imagers, and so I guess that'll wrap up our season of imaging for 2022. So just to let you know that we will have our next imaging group meeting on January 19th, 2023. It'll be an imaging target challenge. I won't go into the details just yet, but just so you know that the imaging group does get together once every month, just like the club does for indoor meetings. And we also join the club, obviously, for the outdoor meetings as well. So thanks for your time. This is part where you applaud.
All right. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, all imagers who shared images in their journey tonight.